But there's something about that bread. She puts all these different ingredients, but one of them she puts in there is she puts yeast in there, or leaven. That bread would not be the same without yeast. If it were just flat bread, it wouldn't be the same. When she puts that yeast in there, and she puts it in the mixer, I watch her do it sometimes. I just mostly just smell it and come out and eat it. But that leaven is very important because you put it in, and what does it do? It spreads, and then it causes it to rise. Jesus tells us about leaven. It spreads, and then he's using that as an illustration. Bad doctrine doesn't just stay in a corner. It spreads. And so he says, beware the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because their bad teaching can affect you. And so Jesus very clearly gives the same caution that Paul is in this section. Again, I mentioned Acts 20. In verse 29 of Acts 20, Paul says, "For I know this, that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also from among yourselves, men will rise up. From within yourselves," Paul says, this church, he's writing to the leaders of Ephesus. He says, "From among yourselves, men will rise up, speaking perverse things to draw away the disciples after themselves." Paul is begging them, please take heed. There are people who are going to lead, their purpose is to lead people away from Christ and truth. Paul's very concerned about that. And so he says here, I urge you. The first thing he says is note those who cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine we've learned. The word note there, if you were to look up the Greek word, I don't always say the Greek words, once in a while I do. Often words that are very clear that where we get our English word from it. The Greek word and the English spelling is skopos, S-K-O-P-O-S. And we would probably say it's, if we read it reading it in the English, we would probably say skopos, and in there we see the word scope. He says, take notes, scope in on those who cause dissensions. What do you use when you take a scope? You take a telescope, or let's think about a microscope, and so it's the idea to look closely. The Greek word has the idea of keep your eye on, to observe with intensity, to examine, to scrutinize carefully. You look in there, and it used to be, I don't know about you, but when I took a class in college that I needed a science, and I took biology with a lot. He has been taught that he may be able to, by sound doctrine, both to exhort and convict or convince those who contradict. We need to know the word so that we can exhort those who may be straying, and we can convince those who are contradicting scriptures. The book of Colossians, I mentioned earlier, Paul's concerned about missions and philosophies. The church, the city of Colossae, and then those who have come to Christ and now gather as a church of Colossae, they were very impressed. Maybe the philosophies, not a bad thing. It means the love of wisdom. Is that a bad thing? No. But there were those who were coming in and they were saying, yeah, what Paul's teaching is okay, but we have higher knowledge. And that's a part of false teaching today. It's like, I've got a new word and I've got a better, God gave me this. See, he says this in Colossians 2, 3, and 4. In Christ are hidden all the treasures of wisdom, 2, 3, and 4. In Christ are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. He says, now at this I say, lest anyone should dissuasive knowledge. He says, now at this I say, lest anyone should dissuasive words. Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and words. Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ. They're coming in and they're teaching you these things. And it's traditions and it's